Hi, my name is Jeremy Stevens. Welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, be sure to subscribe. Now let's get into the video. As you can see by the title of today's video, how I created $1 million rental arbitrage business in less than 1 year. And I'm going to cover from A to Z, from defining what rental arbitrage is, how the heck I determine a good deal, how I find tenants, the cost of furniture, and more. But you're going to have to wait till the very end to determine how much I make on a monthly basis per unit. Oh yeah, and by the way, I have 30 of these total, and I started with 0. Sit back, relax, and I'm gonna tell you all about it. What is rental arbitrage? So rental arbitrage, also known as a corporate lease, is where you do not own this property. I repeat, you do not own this property, but you do get permission from the apartment complex or housing association or piece of property to run a business out of this particular entity. Again, you do not own this, but you are looking to run a business out of this space. And that is what rental arbitrage is. So you're just leasing this just like you're a normal tenant. You're paying your monthly rent the first of every month just as normal. But instead, you're actually going to be running a business out of here. You're going to be furnishing this property, and you're going to be listing this on Furnish Finder or Airbnb. These are just two sites that I utilize for my particular rental arbitrage business, but that's exactly what defines rental arbitrage. Biggest difference between rental arbitrage and owning a piece of property is that you actually have equity in a piece of property that you own. Meaning you probably have a tenant in there and they're paying your mortgage, and hopefully in a perfect world, they're also giving you some sort of profit in the meantime. Well, you actually have equity in this property that you own, but in rental arbitrage, it's more so just a cash vehicle, and you are solely using this for cash purposes. Meaning, let's say rent is $1,000 a month, and you're renting this out for $1,800 a month. Well, that means you have an $800 profit on that particular rental arbitrage unit. So that's the main difference between owning and using rental arbitrage. Now, we'll get into this a little bit later into the video, but the biggest kind of upsides of rental arbitrage is that you don't own this, and the barrier for entry is a lot less than just kind of owning a property outright. Most of the times when it comes to owning a property, you might have to put down 20 to 25% down payment, especially on an investment property, versus rental arbitrage. The barrier for entry is a lot lower than that. Again, we'll get into that later in the video. Now that we've defined what rental arbitrage is, how the heck do I determine what a good rental arbitrage deal is? For me, I'm getting on Zillow.com. I'm typing in for rent, and I'm searching for private landlords and seeing if I can just go ahead and reach out to them and cold call and say, hey, my name is Jeremy Stevens. I'm looking to do a corporate lease. Is that something that you'll allow for me to do? Because I would love to do a corporate lease here. And essentially that's telling the landlord that, hey, Jeremy Stevens is not looking to just rent, but he's also looking to run a business out of here and make money. After getting on Zillow, I'm cold calling the apartment complexes in my area, because the 1 bedroom, 1 bathrooms are my bread and butter. And the apartment complexes, I love it, because after you get one yes, you can kind of build a relationship from there and really, really continue to scale. I'm not going to lie, this part kind of sucks because it is really hard to get that one yes. But the yeses that you do get, go ahead and kindle that relationship and continue to scale your rental arbitrage business. Now that we've got a yes, we've determined a good deal, we know what rental arbitrage is, now it's time to furnish the place. And where do I find my furniture? Well, for me, I've already discussed how the barrier for entry for rental arbitrage is very, very low in comparison to just a normal investment property that you own. The next thing is you have to furnish it. And I buy all my furniture from Amazon, Wayfair, and Walmart. 10 times out of 10, I can find good quality for, not premium price. And that's what we want. In business, we want to keep all overhead as low as possible while also delivering the highest amount of service. Wayfair, Walmart, and Amazon check off all those boxes for this particular business. And for me, my main clientele are going to be traveling healthcare professionals. These people are very low maintenance. They go to work for 12 hours a day and they just want to come home to a nice quiet place and sleep. And these 3 shopping places, Amazon, Walmart, and Wayfair, check off all those boxes. So it's good with me. Now that we furnished the place, we got our first yes. Where the heck am I finding these tenants? For me, in my business, all 30 of my units are made up of Airbnb and Furnish Finder. The bulk of them being from Furnish Finder. These are going to be your traveling healthcare professionals. They're staying for 13 weeks at a time. I absolutely love it. These tenants are low maintenance and they pay on time, which is always most important in any business. On the Airbnb side, I can charge a nightly rate. So my profit margins are going to be a little bit higher on the Airbnb side, but there are a lot more kind of ins and outs for Airbnb because it's ran like a glorified hotel. After somebody checks in for a night or two, it has to be cleaned after that. Things need to be restocked immediately, like soap, towels, etc. So just as if a hotel would restock everything after somebody checks out, your Airbnb is ran the exact same way, which makes Airbnb a little bit tougher because let's say if you're just trying to do this for a side hustle and you have a 9 to 5 and you don't have all this time to dedicate towards the ins and outs and dealing with guests asking for the Wi-Fi password and where are the extra towels and sheets. If you don't have time to do that, Airbnb may not be for you. You may want to gear more towards Furnish Finder. Again, the Furnish Finder people are staying for 13 weeks on average versus Airbnb, they may only be staying for a night or two. But as mentioned, Airbnb, I can charge at a nightly rate. It is a little bit more profitable because I can adjust based on concerts coming into town and big sporting events coming into town. And if it's going to draw a large crowd to the city, I definitely can upcharge, which makes it more profitable in the end. But if you're looking for something more low key, on the safer side, a little bit more guaranteed, maybe not as profitable, but I think Furnish Finder is definitely the way to go if you're just a little bit more of a busy person. You really don't have a lot of time on your hands. Both are great. I think first and foremost, you need to determine what your end goal is for the rental arbitrage business and whichever platform you decide to use, or if you decide to use both, like I do, just go ahead and build from there. When it comes to collecting payments from these particular tenants, we'll start with Furnish Finder. On the Furnish Finder side, everything's done off of the platform. So think of Furnish Finder like a matchmaker. So the tenant is going to be able to reach out to the host directly. So the tenant can reach out to me directly, the host. After that, after Furnish Finder plays matchmaker between the tenant and the guest, Furnish Finder is kind of pushed to the side and everything is held off of the platform. So I have my own lease agreement and I collect my own payments via Zelle, Cash App, and Venmo. So those are my three main income sources as far as how I collect the payments. I also do occasional credit card as well, and I use a Square platform for that. But primarily just Venmo, Zelle, and Cash App. Again, this is on the Furnish Finder side. On the Airbnb side, Airbnb has to take their cut first. So once the guest checks in, I typically get paid from Airbnb 24 hours later. Airbnb collects the payment from the guest. Airbnb then pays me, but they don't pay me without taking out their cut first. So I don't have to set up a separate platform for Airbnb to collect payments. I don't need my own lease agreement for Airbnb because Airbnb qualifies these guests before they even make it to sleep in the bed that's provided for them in my apartment complex. So a little bit different. I will say you don't have to do a lease agreement for Airbnb. You do have to do a lease agreement for Furnish Finder. Again, tomato, they're both very effective depending on your business model. Again, I do utilize both. With Furnish Finder in particular, I do require first month rent and security deposit in order to secure the space, along with the contract lease agreement that they do sign electronically, in which I do receive an automatic notification once that is signed. So let's say rent is $2,000 for simple math. Rent is $2,000 plus a $1,000 security deposit. That's $3,000 upfront that they will owe. Different than Airbnb, because with Airbnb, yes, in order to book a space, you do need to pay Airbnb first, but keep in mind, as mentioned, I'm not getting paid from Airbnb until 24 hours after the guest checks in, so it's a little different. Although the Airbnb guest does need to secure the space through Airbnb first, and they will pay Airbnb, I will not get payment from Airbnb until after they check in. When it comes to running an effective rental arbitrage business, what are these tenants even looking for? Well, as mentioned, my bread and butter are 1 bedroom, 1 bath, and that means that I'm not going to be attractive to large amounts of guests, especially on the Airbnb side. I'm not going to be attractive to a lot of partying, etc., because the space is so small. I will say this. I have stuck with 1 bedroom, 1 baths because they are very low maintenance. They're easy to clean for my cleaners. They're easy to restock for my cleaners, and overall just easier to maintain with just one person versus if I were to rent out a 4 bedroom house, I'm going to be dealing with larger amounts of guests, which requires just a lot larger amounts of work and just extra stress that I don't need when I can just kind of revert back to the 1 bedroom, 1 baths. That's going to be my bread and butter all day. Now that we know where to buy the furniture, we know how to determine a good deal, we know what platforms to use, well, it's time to go live and we need to take photos to do so. For me, I use my iPhone. It works perfectly fine. Of course, I may throw a filter on there just to make the pictures pop a little bit more versus my competition. But the iPhone is great. I don't pay an outside source to take those photos. And after that, it's time to go live on the listing. One of the biggest questions that I've received since starting Rental Arbitrage is, will this work in my market? And my answer is absolutely. Especially on the traveling healthcare professional side, unfortunately, people will always be sick, which means there has been a big shortage in the traveling healthcare professionals industry. And so because of that, the traveling healthcare professionals have really ramped up as far as traveling across the world and providing their services inside of hospitals. And it's up to us as hosts to take advantage of that. And because of that, these people need places to live. And it's up to us to provide housing and take advantage of this market. And on the Airbnb side, it really just depends. It may be seasonal in certain places. It may be booming at all times in others. In my particular market, in the colder months, Airbnb kind of tends to slow down. So I really lean on the traveling healthcare professional side during that time. But in the summer, it really ramps up. There's a lot of weddings and sporting events and concerts, etc. So again, I can adjust that nightly rate and really take advantage of that time during the summer months versus maybe a Nashville market or a Scottsdale market or Chicago market that's probably going to be elite and, kind of high volume at all times due to those kind of travel destinations. Well, Airbnb may be the thing that you lean on 12 months out of the year, but in my particular market, it's good to balance it out. Finally, you waited to the end just for this. We're going to go over how much it costs to actually furnish an apartment and how much per unit I'm making every month. So for furnishing an apartment, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, my bread and butter costs me anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 per unit to furnish. It may fluctuate because in certain buildings, I may have to buy a kitchen table versus another one, I may not have to buy a kitchen table. So some of my 1 bedroom, 1 bathrooms require different furnishings, of course, but in a nutshell, on average, $1,500 to $2,000 per unit to furnish. So that's going to be a kitchen table if needed, a couch, TV, queen size bed is always standard. You need that. Don't need a twin or a full size. Always need a queen because that's what guests are looking for. Towels, sheets, all your bedding, your linens, coffee maker, soap, etc. So everything that you would need in order to live comfortably for 13 weeks at a time, that's exactly what you need to put in there to furnish. Now that we know how much it costs to actually furnish a unit, how much am I actually making in profit per unit? Rent, on average, across my entire portfolio is $1,500. And I'm getting anywhere from $3,000 in revenue to about $3,500. Again, this is going to be fluctuated in the colder months. Again, I can adjust my nightly rates, especially for Airbnb. During the colder months, I'm leaning more on the traveling healthcare professional side, but in the warmer months, I'm really cranking that up because Airbnb is a lot more profitable. More people are traveling to my particular space, which is why I just gave you an average. So across the portfolio, on average, I'm getting anywhere from $3,000 to $3,500 in revenue per month. So if I take $3,000 and I subtract that by $1,500, which is my rent, that's all in. So that's rent, utilities, parking, etc. $1,500 all in. That gives me about anywhere from a $1,500 to $2,000 profit every month per unit. And if I times that by 30, that's exactly what I'm making on a monthly basis from Rental Arbitrage. And now you see why I made a YouTube channel to tell you all about it. Use me as a walking testimony because if I can do this, you can too. And before I got to 30, I had to start with 1. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment. Can't wait to see you guys crush it in the rental arbitrage space. This is exactly how you get out of the rat race and level up.